Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into a dark chapter of history as we explore some of the most notorious dictators in Africa. Stay tuned to learn about their rise to power and the impact they had on their countries. We're talking about the Idi Amins, the Muammar Gaddafis, the Robert Mugabes of the continent. So buckle up, grab some popcorn, because we're about to unpack the stories of these dictators, their rise to power, their iron-fisted rule, and the lasting impact they've had on their countries. Let's get into it. First up, we're headed to the Pearl of Africa, Uganda. Idi Amin Dada, he called himself. But the people, they had a different name for him, the Butcher of Uganda. Amin started his career as a military man, rose through the ranks, even became a boxing champion. In 1971, he seized power in a military coup, kicking out the then president, Milton Obote. We're talking mass killings, disappearances, torture on a level that would make even the most hardcore horror movie director say, okay, that's a bit much. Amin expelled the entire Asian population of Uganda, accusing them of controlling the economy. Under Amin's leadership, Uganda's economy went from bad to worse. Hyperinflation, shortages of basic goods, you name it. Amin adorned himself with medals, gave himself ridiculous titles, and even declared himself the conqueror of the British Empire. Behind the bluster and bravado, the truth was undeniable. Amin was a tyrant, and his reign of terror left an indelible scar on Uganda. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives, and the country was left reeling from the trauma of his brutal rule. Next up, we're jumping over to Libya, where things get a little more complicated. So let's talk about Muammar Gaddafi, the self-proclaimed brother leader of Libya. He came to power in 1969, promising a revolution, a new era of prosperity and unity for Libya. In the early days, he did some good. He invested in infrastructure, improved healthcare, and made education more accessible. But then things took a turn. Gaddafi became obsessed with power. He crushed any opposition, silenced dissenting voices, and turned Libya into his own personal fiefdom. He even wrote his own Green Book, a bizarre mix of political philosophy and self-aggrandizement. Beneath the eccentricity, the lavish spending, and the endless speeches was a darker truth. Gaddafi was a dictator who ruled with an iron fist. When Libyans rose up against him in 2011 during the Arab Spring, his response was brutal. The world watched in horror as Gaddafi's forces cracked down on protesters. In the end, after months of fighting, Gaddafi was captured and killed, his regime collapsing around him. He left behind a country in chaos, divided and scarred by years of authoritarian rule. Chapter 3. Robert Mugabe, the Iron Grip of Zimbabwe. From the deserts of Libya, we travel south to Zimbabwe, a nation once known as the breadbasket of Africa. Here, we meet another leader who went from liberation hero to authoritarian ruler, Robert Mugabe. Mugabe, a former schoolteacher with a sharp intellect and a gift for oratory, became a symbol of resistance against white minority rule in Rhodesia. When Zimbabwe gained independence in 1980, Mugabe was hailed as a liberator. He started strong, investing in education and healthcare, improving the lives of many black Zimbabweans. But then the power got to him. Mugabe became increasingly authoritarian, crushing dissent, rigging elections, and persecuting his opponents. The economy tanked, inflation went through the roof, and Zimbabwe became synonymous with poverty and oppression. Mugabe held on tight, using violence to intimidate anyone who dared to oppose him. By the time he was ousted in a coup in 2017, Zimbabwe was a shadow of its former self. It was a tragic end to a story that had begun with so much promise. Chapter 4. Mobutu Sese Seko, the kleptocrat of Zaire. We're heading into the heart of Africa, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, or as it was known then, Zaire. Mobutu Sese Seko came to power in a coup in 1965, promising stability and prosperity. He even changed the country's name from Congo to Zaire. But behind the facade of progress, Mobutu was running a kleptocracy, a government where stealing from the people was the national sport. Mobutu amassed a personal fortune estimated in the billions, all while his people struggled in poverty. He built himself lavish palaces, threw extravagant parties, and even flew in chefs from Paris to bake him croissants. Poverty soared, infrastructure crumbled, and Zaire became a byword for corruption and mismanagement. In 1997, after years of misrule, a rebellion led by Laurent Kabila drove Mobutu from power. he fled to Morocco, where he died later that year. He left behind a country ravaged by corruption, poverty, and conflict, a stark reminder of the devastating legacy of kleptocracy. Chapter 5. Charles Taylor, warlord to war criminal. We come to the final chapter of our journey to the war-torn nation of Liberia. This is the story of Charles Taylor, a man who went from rebel leader to president, from liberator to war criminal. Taylor launched a rebellion in 1989, promising to liberate the country from the corrupt regime of Samuel Doe. But Taylor's rebellion was about power. He used ethnic tensions to fuel the conflict, arming child soldiers and unleashing a wave of violence. When he seized power in 1997, it was clear that Taylor's Liberia was not going to be a haven of peace and prosperity. He continued to fuel conflicts in neighboring Sierra Leone, backing rebel groups notorious for their brutality. In 2003, facing international pressure and a renewed rebel offensive, Taylor was forced to resign and flee to Nigeria. He was eventually captured and put on trial for war crimes at the Special Court for Sierra Leone. In 2012, Taylor was found guilty of aiding and abetting war crimes and crimes against humanity, becoming the first former head of state to be convicted by an international court since the Nuremberg trials. The legacy of dictatorship. 5 dictators, 5 stories of power, corruption, and the devastating impact they had on their countries. These stories are a stark reminder of the importance of democracy, of accountability, and of the rule of law. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Let us know in the comments which dictator you found the most shocking.